Our next guest, let's welcome to the show, Mark Jewell. Mark, how's it going?
Hi, Mark.
Hey, Eric. Hey, Kenny. How are you doing? Hey, thanks. Thanks for having me on the show.
Okay, so Mark, we know you travel around a lot. You do your 6-day boot camp. So where are you this week?
Yeah, I'm here in sunny Portland. Well, that's actually very rainy Portland. It's been raining for practically the entire time for the last 6 days we've been here, but that's okay. In any case, I'm going to Chicago for the next boot camp, and I understand from my iPhone weather at least that it's going to be sunnier there. So we're flying out on Sunday.
So Mark, give I know you do the boot camps all across the country. I know we got some people coming to your one in Charlotte, North Carolina. But give us an example of something a systems integrator might have learned if he was in your class today. What was the topic you guys covered?
So you asked, what do we do today? Well, 6-day boot camp, you covered 2,000 slides. But today, one of the topics that was of particular interest to the audience was this idea of cross-selling. Cross-selling holds a tremendous potential for maximizing the amount of revenue that you get from an existing customer. And frankly, it maximizes the usefulness of the customer acquisition cost that you've expended to get that customer in the fold, okay? So take a look at a typical controls contractor. Let's say you're used to putting boiler controls on, or just garden variety lighting controls, or time clocks for parking lot lighting, okay? What is the full continuum of things that you could offer that particular customer? For example, let's take the lighting example. You could go in there and just put in dimming ballasts, electronic ballasts, and T8 lamps, and call it a day. You could tie those electronic ballasts to a server and actually have individually IP addressable ballasts, and all of a sudden you're controlling those ballasts from the desktop of the worker sitting under the lights. You could tie them into a master system where in places like Southern California where there's critical peak pricing during demand response emergencies, now all of a sudden the utility can say, uh-oh, we'll pay you big bucks for any kilowatts you can shed out of that building. So now the building owner steps on top of the individual occupant in the office and manages to dim all the lights at the same time, so sort of a master dimming switch, and maybe takes the light levels down 10 or 20%. When the critical peak pricing emergency is over, then the building owner restores it to where it was. But at all times, you've got various people playing roles in this scenario. The customer himself, the building owner gets control of his lighting. The individual occupant of the building, that guy sitting underneath that one fluorescent lamp, he can dim that to the level that's appropriate given the daylight conditions, given how much glare he doesn't want to have on his laptop screen and that sort of thing. Interesting little tidbit. I heard the other day from a company that sells that kind of technology that I just described, that if you allow people to control their light to a level that they prefer, by giving them individualized control at their workstation, they wind up dimming their lights to a level of about 16% of brightness, possible brightness, which is a level that no lighting designer would have the courage to enforce upon a workforce just by saying unilaterally we're going to dim the lights down to 16%. So by giving people individualized control, you wind up saving a lot of money. One of the things that we emphasize is that you don't manage what you don't measure. And far too many salespeople, and I'll make the distinction between salespeople and sales professionals, salespeople don't really monitor their own performance. I mean, sure, they have metrics. They've got their sales manager breathing down their neck saying, how many calls did you make this month? What are your numbers? Or what percentage of quota are you? How much ink do you have? All the slang and jargon. But I'm talking about on a personal level, a sales professional is more intently focused on how many calls he made, how many connections he made, in other words, how many voicemails he made, how many pitches he made that particular day, how many pieces of literature they sent electronically in the wake of those kinds of voicemails and actual connections by phone, and then how many sales he made. I told guys in the class today what I used to do when I was selling is I would have an Excel spreadsheet that would track exactly what my production was on a daily basis, and it would actually extrapolate what my annual income would be if I did that level of production every day. Talk about an eye-opener. And if you do something like that to measure your metrics and pay attention to them every day religiously, you're going to have better things to put on your 7 most important things to do tomorrow, and you're going to have better numbers because you'll never have a chance to get complacent. You'll never get to the end of the month and say, holy cow, I'm really behind. It'll never be a surprise.
Well, that's very interesting, Mark. Tell me, what do you mean by the 7 most important things?
Interestingly, this is not specific to the controls world, but I'll tell you something. The most successful executives in the world, including sales professionals, are the ones that actually know what they're doing the following day. And I give all of our ninjas, the efficiency sales professional ninjas, the advice that if they don't work the night before on what they're going to work on the next day, exactly what customers they're going to go after, exactly what database they're going to research, exactly what documents they're going to develop to, put a message out there more effectively, whatever it is, if they don't take the time to put those kinds of details in writing the night before so that they can sleep on it and their subconscious mind can already think about how to do it, they're losing a phenomenal opportunity to get in the morning, to get in the office the next morning, and to have a really, really productive day. And frankly, one needn't be demoralized if one doesn't get all 7 things done. The fact that you ordered them in priority, and when you went in the next day, you started at number 1, and then you went to number 2, and then you went to number 3, even if you only get to number 4, hell, even if you only get to number 1, it's still better than not having understood the night before what you're going to work on the next day. So we tell all of our ninjas, regardless of their role in the sales process, understand what you're doing the following day. And by the way, for Monday, do it on Friday afternoon before you get tied up with the weekend, because that'll get you focused all weekend on what you're going to do to be effective on Monday.
Wow, there you have it, Mark Jewell. I tell you, this guy is one of the best sales trainers on the planet. You got to be sure to check him out. Get to one of his boot camps. Get to one of the Honeywell EEO programs at the very least. Check this guy out. His website is eefg.com. Mark Jewell. Hey, Mark, thanks so much for being on the show.
Next week, perhaps we'll do a broadcast from Chicago. We'll let you know some of the interesting questions that came up out of that boot camp. I'm sure there'll be plenty of them. And then the week after, Charlotte. So let's keep in touch. And thanks again for having me on the show.
Hey, we'd love to catch up with you in Chicago. And like I said, some of our people will be seeing you up in Charlotte. Mark, thanks again.